Welcome to Keiser Voices, the story of success, brought to you by Keiser University Graduate School, here where the academic world meets personal triumph. Join us today as we dive into the captivating tales of success.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Keiser Voices. We got a special episode for you today because we're going to take a deep dive into a career path of one of our programs that stretches from associates all the way up to a master's. And there is no shortage of a need for this profession. So today we are talking about the truths about accounting. What's the myth versus the reality? And we're excited to have us joined today by Katherin Emerson and Dr. Angela Gomez. Both of them are program chairs for their respective divisions. We have Dr. Gomez from our Latin division and Professor Katherin Emerson coming to us from the Melbourne campus. And both of them work with our accounting students. So welcome, ladies. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks to you.
So I think we have one of two perspectives about accounting. The one is it's boring and dry. And the other one is what came out of the movie from a few years ago about the accountant who was an accountant by day, assassin by night. And I'm going to go with it. That's probably not the reality, no matter what way we are looking at it. But, those are probably what are coming to mind. So to start off this conversation, what are some other common myths about accounting and what's actually the truth about it? What's actually different from what these myths are? And Professor Emerson, I don't know if you'd like to go first or not, but I think we need to start there.
Go ahead, Angela.
It just, there are so many ideas. I think the first one is just to think that accounting is a department and doesn't have anything to do with the rest of the people in the organization. I'm just going to have to go to accounting like once a month. And the people, they think, okay, I need to do something with them, but they are not part of the organization. And it is not true because, that it's just the center of all the decision-making process in any organization. They need to know how the company is doing financially, to do budgets, to do projections, to do planning. So it's pretty wide. It just it needs to the people, they need to explore too many different areas that are included in accounting. I think this is the first thing that we need to mention.
Yeah, we don't operate in a silo. We're very connected to every other aspect of the business, everything. And if you are the kind of person that likes to, peek under the hood and see how everything is made and how everything works, then accounting is absolutely a great place to be. You get background tours of everything. You get to talk to everyone in the organization. And I find it very, very interesting. One of the myths is, and I hear this a lot, it's like, well, I don't like to do math. Well, I don't do math either. And I've been a CPA for many, many years and working as an instructor, and I have my own accounting business where I help people, get their books and records organized and for efficiencies and just profitability and own their numbers. They really understand what they have and how significant it is to know what every single number means and how to operate their financial system, whatever they're using. But then where do you start? Like you start by just learning about the basics of accounting, knowing that you're going to go on a system that you're going to enter data and it's going to yield results. But you have to learn it so you know if those results are accurate or if they're represented incorrectly. So, and then fix it, or call me and I'll look at it and fix it with you. But it's not a whole lot of math. You do need to know, be proficient in other software. So it's what else are you bringing to the table? Like, for instance, Excel. When I first started in my accounting career, entry-level job as an accountant, and they quickly found out that I was proficient in Excel. So very quickly, I became the assistant to the controller and the assistant to the treasurer because they had so much to do in getting reports and understanding cash flow or projections and what they can afford to pay and just everything. And it was just it's a very cool job to just learn everything about it. So I think the biggest misconception is that there's a lot of math and that it's boring. It is absolutely not boring. I talk to a lot of really fascinating people all day long.
I'm glad you mentioned, Kathy, about the Excel. So fun fact, I actually worked in accounting before I became to Keiser. So I was accounts payable. And I ended up in that position because of my ability to understand reports, the data, and Excel.
Yeah,
And it definitely, I mean, did I use some math? Well, yeah, I had to balance, the payables, but it wasn't the same every day. Every day looked completely different.
right.
And like Dr. Gomez said, I had to work with so many different departments. There was no like I'm trying to think, there's a reference I wanted to make to accounting people, and basically like they have no personalities. It's not
Oh,
like
yeah.
that at all. Like, you're just like a silent individual, like that person in the corner everybody forgets about. Wallflower. That's the reference I was looking for. They're not just some wallflower that people are going to pass by. I mean, they have just as big of a role as any other person in the department.
So I think the most successful businesses interact with their accounting group regularly because they absolutely have to know what's working, what's not working, where are the trends. It's very interesting when you're working with a lot of data, we see trends sooner than a business owner will know what's going on. And if we share that information with them, hey, this is going in an unfavorable way, what is happening? And a perfect example of that is prices go up, but your charges to your customers don't. And you think you're charging the same all the time. What happens? You start becoming less and less profitable. And then you have less cash, and cash is king. And you're wondering, what is happening? I'm doing the same thing I've always done, and I don't have enough of cash to keep going. Well, you realize that prices that are being charged to you aren't being passed on to your customer, so you're being squeezed. So we could see that before the rest of the company feels it. So the best communication should happen with your accountant and your accounting team and reviewing trends and reviewing your financials.
So what skills does it take for someone to be successful in an accounting role?
I think there are some different factors. One of them is just the confidence that you know that you can do the things, not thinking that, as Katherin was mentioning, it's math. You're going to be doing calculations and you are not going to be talking to anybody. You are going to be just like doing your things. It's just to change that mindset. I working with important information for the company. Many of these things are confidential information. So we have to be protected. We need to use pretty good internal control system. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that we cannot talk to anybody in the company. So something pretty important for the good accountant is to have excellent communication skills, because the numbers, they don't talk by themselves. You are going to see numbers, but they are not going to talk to you, is what I say to my students. You just need to know what they mean. Even though you have your own small company or you work for a big corporation, it's pretty important to know how to interpret the amounts, what it means, what are the projections that you have, to understand the real situation of the company. So I think it's just the communication skills.
So I guess my next question, kind of in follow up with that, is what does it take to become somebody in accounting? Do you have to have a degree? Do you have to have advanced licensure? Or can you start off one way but eventually you have to end up another way? You have to become a CPA or have some additional licensure or have some higher degree. Do you understand what I mean? Like an entry type of job, or are there educational that are also necessary to be successful?
To be called an accountant, you have to have an accounting degree. At our campus, you can get an associate's of accounting and a bachelor's, and then go on for the bachelor's and the master's, of course, for the online programs. So you get started and you figure out what skills can I bring to the table, whether that's Excel, whether that's the ability to just be interested and interesting, be able to hold a conversation, be willing to learn new things, and you're just making an effort. You're having a positive attitude. I tell my students, when you start off, you might get a data entry job, or you might be looking at, let's bill the clients and let's post their payments when they come in. And when we have vendor bills that have to be paid, let's process those, let the management know it needs to be paid, and then run those and go through that process. You want to do that job, but then ask for more. What else could I be doing? That's the only way you're going to reach out of that. So you do not stay at an entry-level job for any length of time. You're leaving that open for somebody else to come into that entry-level job. So you're constantly going to be learning and contributing more to the organization, and with that will be increase in compensation.
So there was a term that you threw out earlier, and I apologize, I don't remember if it was you, Dr. Gomez, or you, Professor Emerson, but you said a controller. So there are multiple levels to an accounting department. There's payables, there's receivables, and again, all organizations are different. You have a senior accountant, a junior accountant, and then some organizations do have a comptroller or a controller. What's the difference between a controller and an accountant?
Controller is like the internal auditor of the company. And I know that Kathy knows more things that they do. Because, I am not a CPA, by the way. I have my master's degree in accounting and my under degree in finance. So as I say to my students, you have too many options. You can just, yeah, because you can study governmental accounting, and they feel so interested in be working for the government or the non-profit entities. Or maybe they say, I'm going to open my own company, and I have different clients. So it's pretty wide. They can be working in auditing, doing internal auditors as a controller, or working for an external auditing company. And they also can work for the police, if they do forensic accounting. So there are so many interesting areas that is good to know that all the accounting is the same, just doing financial statements. No, there are so many, many things to do.
Right.
So
everything is its own niche. So as Dr. Gomez said about the comptroller, it's all could be very different from a controller. The comptroller, we usually hear that in a governmental setting. If you're the lead accountant, the top person in a government entity, you can be a comptroller, or a nonprofit, you might be a comptroller. A controller is typically, we think of it as maybe an accounting manager, maybe a little higher, that they oversee the whole department. They interact with the C-suite, and it very much involved in the day-to-day operations and reporting. So it's both of them are high up on the scale.
Yes.
So opportunities to grow into as you advance your education, you advance your skills in the field. That's where ultimately you would be hoped to be working towards.
Right. Absolutely.
And that really kind of answered my other question for you. I was going to ask you ladies, what do opportunities for growth and development look like in the accounting world? And I think you've answered it indirectly all along, because it sounds like the opportunities are truly endless.
The opportunities within the accounting industry are slated for about a 10% increase in 2026, and they have been. There is an absolute need for accountants, and it is a field that's also constantly changing with new technology. So you're learning new technology. You're learning how data moves from one place to another. You're doing everything you've done before, and it's done more efficiently and effectively, and you're still looking at the data and interpreting it and reporting to board members or the managers of the company what is happening and what the numbers represent. And then you're very much involved in like if there's audits in the company, so you're pulling reports for that and you're supporting your reporting all the time.
I think it's also like a lifetime learning process
Oh
because
yeah.
everything change and you need to have your requirements like a continuous education. And additional
Mhm.
to that, it's important to have certifications in different things. It's not only you have your degree in accounting, but also get some additional certifications like using QuickBooks Online, using other financial software that is going
Yeah.
to give you more practical skills to be working in a nice position as an accountant.
That's an excellent point. The more credentials you can have after your name, the more interested
Opportunities.
yeah, the
Yeah.
more opportunities you're going to have because it's a resume builder and
Mhm.
it's a confidence builder because now you know more things
Mhm.
and versus someone who doesn't. I know that in one of our classes, we thoroughly go through QuickBooks Online and working within that software. And at the end, we encourage students, get your certification in QuickBooks Online
Mhm.
so that
Yes, we
you
do.
have that after your name.
Mhm.
And teaching is an outcome. I mean, you're both here with us today because you are a faculty within the accounting and the finance departments. And you're sharing, I mean, this information to our audience, but you connect with students on the regular who are hoping to be in your shoes. So even
Hmm.
teaching on the subject matter is an outcome.
Mhm. Yeah, it is. Yeah,
It is,
because
and the best teacher, I'm sorry, Angela.
no, no,
The
no.
the
Go ahead.
the
Go
the,
ahead.
the best is what can you bring to that? Like if
Mm.
you've worked in the profession, if you've worked with clients, if you were an auditor, I was an auditor for 5 years with a few firms. It exposes you to so many different companies and their operations, and you don't realize, oh, you can do AR in so many different ways, and you still get the same results. You're like, who knew? This is not what we learned in school. It's just always found it very interesting meeting new people all the time, and getting tours of how things worked and keeping in mind like, well, how does this affect the financials and what are we, I can go through a warehouse and kind of look at the inventory. Does it look fairly new? Has it been seasoned? Has it been around for a while? Do we need to mark it down? Is it, that kind of thing. You're constantly kind of looking and observing and trying to help businesses improve their operations and then their profitability.
And I think something else is just the people who come from different places. I think accounting is the same independent of the country where you are at. Because it just the basic is the same. We have different regulations, but not to think that I have studied some accounting, I cannot do accounting in the US. That is not
Mhm.
true. It just if you already took some classes in an accredited university outside, you can apply that just to begin doing your master or your bachelor degree in accounting. And it just the basics are gonna be the same. And but they have to learn specific regulations in the US. But it's interesting because it's something that is global. You can work as an auditor in the
Yeah,
US and then the company is going to send you to Germany and anyway you can work there. Because, they
yeah,
give you even international opportunities, international job um, positions that you can apply to.
yeah. There's so many fun things you can do because if you look around, every business needs an accountant. And whether
Mhm.
you want to or don't want to work at that business, it could be a stepping stone to something greater. So you work somewhere, get some skills, increase those skills, move up, see what opportunities are out there. I ask my students to go on a job search site and put in a search and just say, if I had an AA in accounting within this geographic area, what jobs are available and see what pops up and what kind of skills you need to get that job and start looking at these and saying, oh my gosh, this is what it pays. That's more than I make now. And this is, what I need to have in place. And oh my gosh, I actually qualify for that. So just kind of reach out and see what's available and learn and grow, because it absolutely is a career. You're not going to be doing the same job all the time, but you're going to grow with the different companies that you're with and just take your skills somewhere else and or be recruited to say we need you over here. But there is such a need and such an opportunity. If you look at just supply and demand, what happens when there's a demand but not enough supply? Well, you're going to get paid more.
Mhm.
No, I mean, these are some good points. Is there any other guy? I mean, you've had a lot of great points, and you're definitely, I thinking, helping to paint accounting in a better light than the ideas that most people have in their heads. But what guidance would you guys offer to someone who is considering a career in accounting to help them understand like the true realities and possibilities in this field?
I think also has to do what are the plans of the students. Sometimes they begin taking classes and they already have a small company, and they need to know how can I manage my company in a better way. I need to be qualified. I need to understand my finances, just so make my company continue growing. Or maybe they have the plan, they are not so sure. Maybe I can work for a private company, I can work for a public entity, what I want to do. And this is the reason that it's important to talk to your students since the beginning, to know what are the plans that they have, and then to show them that they have too many options to study accounting, that they can become CPAs, so maybe they don't have to. Maybe they can become certified managerial accountants instead of CPAs, or maybe they can be they can do analytics for fraud evaluation. So many different things that they can do. So I think it depends on the students because there are so many options for them.
There are a lot of options, and I think of students that actually transfer into the program from other programs that they may have started in. Like they might have started in the health field and they realize I don't like to touch people. Like, well, that's good. That's good to know that early,
Yes.
right? Before you have a lot of classes under your belt. So yes, please come to accounting. That's not what we do. We can work in the health industry. And in fact, if you're coming from the knowledge of the health and sciences, those need accountants too. And you could actually thrive in that industry running a medical office because now you know the terminology, you have the empathy for the patients, you know what they're all going through, you know how to relate to the staff. It's a perfect job running the back office at a medical company. So the options are really truly endless.
That's amazing. And I want to touch real quickly about the CPA, because I know, especially once we start talking to bachelor level students, CPA becomes more of a very tangible conversation. What is the CPA, and what tips do you have for those that are going to be sitting for the CPA in the near future? I know exams change all the time.
The exams are constantly being updated. The way it's delivered to you is being updated. It's constantly being looked at, and it's currently being changed. So you do want to look at the state website who issues the licenses in the state you want to be operating in. So there's the
The Professional Board of Regulations.
yeah, the Board of Regulations, the Department of Professional Regulations, DBPR.
Yeah, the
for
Department of
Florida. I
Professional.
don't have
Yes.
to get that back to you. It's letters, and really go through the details of what exactly do I need. I know that when I did it, and the criteria has changed somewhat, but be responsible for yourself. Say, I need this, 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 and this. Use Excel, make the list, columns across the top. How is this satisfied? And make sure that you're hitting all those, hitting all the points to be able to, sit for the exam and then additional work and work experience, and then you have be able to use your license.
Yeah, and something else they have to be sure that they are going to be doing the accounting program in an accredited university.
Very good point. Yeah.
Yeah, because they can see, I can have a small university that is my neighbors, just open the garage and make a small university, and I can go and take accounting classes. No, sorry, you
No,
cannot do that
no.
because, It has to be valid for the state. So you have the credits to be a candidate for the test. If you
Yeah.
don't have that,
Yeah, you keep track of the criteria, keep track of the deadlines. If you take an exam and you come close, but you don't pass a part of it, you have to understand, well, how much time do I have before I can retake it and still keep the credit I have for the parts that did pass? So all of this, you just become very knowledgeable in the state where you want to be licensed. So they call it a universal exam, but each state licenses you individually. And then you
yes.
have the ability to, what's it called? It's not transfer your license, but you apply to use that license and qualify for another state. There's a process for that. I just can't think of the word. Yeah. Okay, so another thing that will help you to be successful is be able to ask questions. If you are not sure about how some process works or how even to apply an accounting rule, then you need to ask questions sooner rather than later because time is money and you're going to be burning time on that. So get your clarity ahead of time and then you'll be able to do your work instead of trying to um, work it through yourself and just wasting a whole bunch of time and getting yourself frustrated. So be willing to ask questions to speed things up, and that will actually help you immensely, even to the point where people will ask you questions. They'll be comfortable. There has to be a comfort level
Mhm.
for the give and take of sharing that knowledge so that you can keep things moving forward at a pace that is keeps you on track. And just be willing to learn new things. I learn something new almost every day. And
Yeah,
it
we
just,
do.
yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. And then we become the experts at it because no one's put in so much time learning something. Like, okay, now let's train somebody else on the key points of a particular process. And that's how you share information constantly.
I want to thank you both so much for joining us today, having this conversation, helping us to overcome the misconceptions about the accounting profession because it's so much more than what most people are assuming.
Yeah.
As you guys have clearly demonstrated so thoroughly for us. So thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us and hopefully inspiring another generation of accountants.
Thanks to you.
Thank you.
And if you guys have enjoyed this conversation, be sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you for journeying with us today on Keiser Voices, the story of success. As we close this chapter, remember every story has its next page.